Does it get cold or snow where you live? Well, you're in luck, because today we're going to talk about winter concealed carry. Hi everybody, welcome back to LocaCarnivore. We are your hunting, guns, and adventure channel for smart people, and you're smart because you're watching us instead of somebody like, I don't know, one of these golden pizza eating people or people that put Lamborghinis in choppers or whatever. You know who I'm talking about. At any rate, you're with us because you're smart, so let's get on with it. Now remember, you're going to want to stay for the entire video here because we've got great information throughout this video. And on top of that, we've got a humorous little zinger at the end of the video, which we always do, and I'm sure you're looking forward to that. Hey, share this video with everybody you know. Let's put this thing out there. Let's make this thing go viral. As we said in the opening bit, we're talking today about concealed carry during wintertime. It is very different than carrying in warmer conditions, summer, spring, even fall. Now, a proper discussion of winter carry requires us to look at 4 different areas. And the first one is going to be the guns for winter carry. Number 2, we're going to look at the ammunition requirements because there are different considerations than when people are wearing light clothing and you're carrying smaller guns. 3, we're going to look at the holsters and how you're going to actually carry the weapon. And 4, we'll look at clothing. And of course, the clothing will affect the holsters. You'll see how that goes. So there's going to be a little bit of overlap there. All right, first things first, let's talk about the guns for winter carry. First of all, in the summer, lots of people carry little what I call mouse guns, either 380s like this little Glock 42 or small revolvers like this 38 Smith & Wesson 642. And the reason people are carrying these little small guns is because a large gun can be somewhat difficult to conceal under light summer clothing. However, we will give you a card a little later in the video to a video we did on how to carry a full-size gun in the summer. It can be done, but it takes a little more work. So let's suffice to say most people are carrying these tiny guns most of the time because the small gun you have on you is far better than the large gun you had to leave at home because you're wearing nothing but a t-shirt, shorts, and flip-flops. Well, winter carry can really liberate you as far as the gun you're carrying. It's time to bring out the big dogs, like say a 1911 government model. This happens to be a Springfield Armory Ronin in 10mm, one of my favorite cartridges, you know that. Or something like this full-size Glock Model 20, and you guessed it, 10mm again. Don't worry folks, for you traditionalists, I have 45s and I like 45s just as well. So these are just examples, pick your favorite horse pistol and go with it because now you're free to wear this thing and wear it comfortably and carry it all day, so you'll have a proper fighting size handgun on you should things go south. And for you revolver devotees, now you can ditch the little 38 snubbies and let's get a proper fighting pistol in our hands, like this Model 65 Smith & Wesson. It's time for the 357 Magnums. The 4-inch barrel, no problem with heavy clothing. Or, this is a nice little thing I've always liked, let's go with a 41 Magnum, again one of my favorite cartridges. 41 Magnum, Smith & Wesson Model 27. It's been suitably given a little weight reduction for social occasions. But the point is, you can now carry a full-size gun in comfort without having to worry about is it going to print excessively and is it going to be too heavy, etc., etc. All right, we just looked at all the guns and some of the possibilities there, and we just concluded, yeah, you can carry a proper full-size pistol in a proper cartridge. You don't have to go to the 380s or 38s. Now we can carry 9mm, 357s, 45s, 40s, 41s, 44s, whatever your heart desires, as long as you can conceal it well and you're confident that you can hit with it under stress. So the sky's the limit on that. So let's talk about the type of ammunition that we're going to need for winter carry. Now winter, unlike summer, gives us a unique problem, and that is people are just wearing a lot of clothing. Something like this Carhartt, it's made out of heavy canvas and it's got lots of fluffy filling in it, which is very fibrous and has a tendency to plug things up, i.e. hollow points. And then of course They might have another garment underneath that. Here's another vest. It's got a hollow fill. It's got nylon on the side of it. And then we're down. We've got a heavy shirt. And then I've got a base layer underneath that. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 layers of clothing to go through instead of just a t-shirt or no shirt in some cases, or somebody's just wearing like a t-shirt and maybe a cotton hoodie or something like that. Those clothing barriers are almost transparent to modern hollow points, modern ammunition. However, you get this kind of clothing on, and this is nothing. I've seen a great many people out on the street, especially if they spend most of their time on the street, and you know the unfortunate types of people I'm talking about. And we won't go into that discussion, but they have huge amounts of clothing on. They might have 5, 6, 7 layers of clothing on just to stay warm. Somebody like that decides that they want to harm you, and it's a situation where it warrants the use of deadly force, and you have to use your carry gun. That's going to present a huge challenge to your ammunition. Also add in the fact that, especially in the farther north you go, people just get bigger. So you might be faced with somebody wearing, let's say, 5 or 6 layers of heavy winter clothing, wool and lots of padding and lots of batting on it as insulation. And on top of that, they might be, well, let's just pick a couple numbers, 6'3" to 6'5". I've seen some individuals that are easily 300 pounds, even more. I dealt with one individual a little while ago who was 6'5" and 490 pounds, I kid you not. So that's a huge amount of clothing and then biomass to get that bullet through in order to hit them in a vital area. So if you're dealing with somebody that's got that much heavy clothing on it and everything, our ammunition choices need to lean towards enhancing penetration. We don't want to over-penetrate if possible because, again, we are responsible for every round that leaves our gun in a self-defense shooting. So we don't want anybody that doesn't deserve to be shot or isn't legally needing to be shot to defend our lives getting hit with a bullet. So we have to be careful. Don't want to over-penetrate, but we need more penetration than normally with people wearing light clothing. So what kind of bullets are we going to use? Well, as far as the hollow points go, when we're into the more powerful calibers, the mainstream self-defense calibers, 9, 40, 45, 10, 357, things like that, a properly constructed modern hollow point design is going to do fairly well. We've been testing several of them, and we have our winter clothing test rig. We have our winter clothing gelatin test regime called our Frost Giant, and we'll give you a card up here later in the video so you can go see how we put that together and the logic behind it. But it basically simulates a cross-torso shot, which in the FBI's estimation is the nightmare shot. It's always dogged them since the 1986 Miami fiasco. That crossbody shot through heavy winter clothing is a severe challenge. Admittedly, that's the extreme case, but sometimes life is that way. You go in for one thing and you end up getting something completely different, and so if you plan for that worst case, then you should be covered for the less difficult scenarios. If you like what you see here and you'd like to support us better, come and join our Patreon family. The link's in the description down below, and depending on your level of support, you'll get various wonderful things from us, including a valuable guide to hunting cartridges, which we know you'll love. I know you're watching us on the channel, but we have great content for you also over on our website, LocaCarnivore.com. Links down in the description there. And we have a store, yes, so you can get some LocaCarnivore branded merchandise, so we'd appreciate your support that way as well. Go ahead and comment. We'd love to hear from you. Those comments really help us to improve our content. So as far as the hollow points go, again, we want something, so we're going to pick some of the more modern ammunition. I would stay away from things like the old silver tip, unless it's in a pretty hot caliber like 10mm or 41 Magnum. The older Hydroshock, the original Hydroshock design, has a reputation for collecting clothing material in the nose cavity and not expanding, and so that can be a little more difficult. And generally any of the older bullets, even like lead semi-wad cutters and things like that, or inverted wad cutters, they may or may not be your best choice. It just depends. Oh, and then the old thing of, and then the soft, super soft lead hollow points, the old school hollow points. They, again, can tend to give you expansion difficulties through heavy intermediate clothing barriers. So we're talking for the more modern ammunition, Federal HST, Spear Gold Dot. I really like the new Federal Hydroshock Deep. We've been testing some of those and they've been turning in very good performances. And Winchester's new USA Ready Defend also seems to be a pretty good bullet as long as it's in one of the hotter calibers. Now we haven't tested that in some of the more mundane calibers like 9mm, 38, things like that. But as far as like in 10mm, it's acquitted itself quite well. So we want to look at those kind of designs. The other thing is we're going to look at the actual caliber. As a general rule, there always has been a theory that in winter carry guns, one should go to a wider caliber. So if you normally carry a 9mm, you might want to consider a 40 or even a 45 or a 10. And the logic behind that is if the hollow point does not expand or only expands marginally, you still have a very wide bullet that's going to give you as wide as practical a wound track in your assailant. And you may not get as much energy dump from the bullet expanding and transferring all that energy. So that temporary cavity might be quite subdued, but at least you're going to have that larger cavity. And that bullet, if it doesn't expand, remember expansion works against penetration. So you have to balance that off. The more expansion you get, the less penetration, and the less expansion, the more penetration. That's why full metal jacket bullets, for instance, are renowned for penetrating and even over penetrating, versus hollow points tend to not go quite as deep. Hey, if you're getting value from this video, do us a favor, give us a big like, that thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and go ahead and click on that little bell down there, ring that little bell so that you'll get notified of all of our future videos, and we know you'll want to see them. So if we're going with that larger caliber, then there's also the question, well, why don't we just use full metal jacket? Well, we haven't tested this yet, but I have a notion that about the only one you would want to use for full metal jacket would probably be 45 ACP, because it's not going very fast and it doesn't have a lot of energy. Admittedly, it has a lot of mass and momentum, 230 grain bullet, but if you watch some of the older training films from World War II and whatnot, where they shoot at a helmet, the 45 ACP round will usually just dent a helmet versus a 9mm full metal jacket usually will perforate the helmet through and through both sides. So you get an idea that it's a little more controlled as far as its penetration. It'll also be more reliable in the gun as well. But I'm not recommending full metal jacket necessarily, unless of course you are in an environment where you don't have to worry about a lot of other people around you. If you're in a very rural environment almost all the time and you generally don't have a lot of bystanders, it might be something to consider, but be very careful. You might want to do your own testing. And of course, we're going to start testing that as well. Now, when it gets to the little mouse guns, 38s, 380s, our testing has already shown that realistically you should be running full metal jacket for that, because those rounds have so little energy in the 200 to at best 280, 290 foot-pounds range that it just, and there's not enough velocity there. When it hits all that fabric, the bullets just really slow down quite a bit. So we need that penetration, and we're finding the hollow points severely underpenetrate. And again, we'll be bringing you some of those gel tests as we go forward so you can see how those go. But I'll tell you right now, our testing shows that those hollow points severely underpenetrate, only in the order of 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 inches if you're lucky. And it hits all that fabric and it's done. So looking at it from that standpoint, for those small guns, especially out of those short barrels with little to no practical reasonable velocity, go with full metal jacket, especially in the 380, because it'll give you at least some reasonable penetration. And we found with 38 Special, at least out of the snub nose, that it didn't excessively penetrate. It certainly was in a reasonable realm to where you could expect, even if it did overpenetrate, the energy left in the bullet would be severely reduced. Hopefully it wouldn't do any substantial damage to anyone it hit downrange of your intended target. So we're pretty sure you got some good value out of this. So once again, thank you for spending your valuable time with us today at LocaCarnivore. As always, stay aware, stay safe, be kind, and we'll see you next time on LocaCarnivore.